thank you. We'll start our next session. So, thank you. We're going to start our next discussion. For those who were in the last discussion, you will see these are conversations about real-world impact and real-world stories from leaders in our space. This next session will focus on skilling in the new paradigm, how Cisco and Cornerstone are powering workforce agility. And in this session, you will hear how Cisco is trying to rethink their talent vision alongside Cornerstone, shift them from a role-based to skills-based enablement, and building a growth hub that empowers employees to develop, adapt, and thrive. And this ambition extends beyond employees to customers, partners, and communities, creating a dynamic ecosystem of learning innovation that our colleagues will talk about shortly. On the stage today, we have Marci Paino, apologies, the Vice President of Enterprise Learning and Growth at Cisco, and Karthik Suri, the Chief Product Officer at Cornerstone OnDemand. And on that note, I will pass the mic to you and let you kick off.
Thank you so much. The first time my name has been pronounced more correctly than Marci's. So.
Sorry.
Hey, everyone, so good to meet you. My name is Karthik Suri, and you're able to see there? Okay, yeah, excellent. Well, this is the theme here, right? There are multiple things that is happening in the world, but one thing we know for a fact that is happening right now is change. Change is a constant right now, particularly when it comes to workforce and workforce readiness. We see four things that are happening. I don't know how many of you saw the morning keynote session, including with Secretary Linda McMahon. There is first geopolitical shifts. I'm assuming most of you are following the last week or two. Multi-generational workforce, right? So there is about for the first time in history, we have 5 generations of workforce that are working simultaneously. A massive shift in technology. We've been hearing about AI, right? Noun, verb, and AI has been the theme of this conference. And lastly, the tight labor market where you have simultaneously high levels of employment and high levels of layoff happening. Completely anomalies to normal economic cycles with respect to this. So with this perfect storm, we are seeing an opportunity and a challenge on a threat that is happening. And we call this the workforce readiness gap. It has the skills gap, where the skills are changing because of the propulsion of technology. We see an expectations gap among different people in different generations in the workforce. And we see a visibility gap. With all of the shifting priorities and geopolitical ability for talent pollination, we do not know what skills we have, and we do not know what skills we need that brings it all together. That leaves a whopping $9 trillion in untapped market in the world. And over 60%, or close to 60% of HR leaders think that they do not have a talent with the right skills on bench right now. And there is a huge amount of interest in actually wanting to invest, grow, and develop this talent. Or the threat of not doing so is massive. Simultaneously, with the proliferation of AI, we see our skills report through SkyHub by Cornerstone, a skills intelligence platform. We find that there is over a 411% jump in the need for AI skills, particularly generative AI. But what is even more interesting is, despite this, we see a 3x addition in demand for human skills than just for digital or technological skills. So people want to work with AI, but deal with humans. And lastly, the newest generation in the workforce, Gen Z, people like myself. No, I'm kidding. The Gen Zs, why is that funny? 91% of them are choosing their employer of choice based on the technology that their employers offer. So this forms the crux of a lot of our workforce agility challenge. And leaders, talent leaders, particularly in the ICT domain like Cisco, are leading the way there by creating consortiums, bringing like-minded folks together, looking at the 100% of jobs that actually demand net new type of skills, et cetera, and 90% for AI skills. And Marci is running a session this afternoon as well, which is going to be fascinating. So I would love to share Cisco's strategy and how Cornerstone can be a solution to that. Marci.
Great, thank you. Which slide is it? Okay. So to meet the changing demands that Karthik just outlined, Cisco has set forth in a path to pioneer new ways of leading and working with learning at the center of it. And so as we look at our strategy, there's 4 dimensions that are really important to us. And the first starts with the mindset. And the mindset is really around AI-powered lifelong learning. And that allows us to be resilient in the face of change and allows us to rethink what learning means to us. So it's no longer learning only happens in a classroom, but now learning happens with every single work experience. And you have your AI on your shoulder and you're working in dynamic teams where you are able to learn fearlessly. So you're able to fail fast to learn faster. It's a paradigm shift and it all starts there. The second dimension is around building strategic capabilities. So how do you even define what that means to you? And so what we're looking to do is become much more proactive and predictive about what those capabilities are that we need to build foundationally across the entire company, but also those niche skills that are needed to prepare our workforce for the future, and being able to do both of those things at both ends of the spectrum at scale. And then the third is about always-on modern learning. And so really shifting to much more experiential learning that helps you to look at real-world scenarios and unpack them and be able to learn in the flow of work, but also as a Cisco, as a practice, looking at how we embed the learning into our existing rituals as a company. So how do we spotlight what's most important to the company within the motions that already exist within how we work today? And then the fourth dimension is about a unified skilling environment and really looking at our ecosystem to make sure that we can power up that end-to-end career navigation experience for our employees where we are able to, as a company, push out what's most important, but employees can pull what they need when they need it. And at the crux of all of that is that we believe these 4 dimensions come together in a really powerful dynamic to allow us to skill at the speed of innovation. So if we step into the shoes of our learner or our employee and we use that human-centered approach, we look at how does this come to life for us throughout the employee life cycle. And so it starts with that candidate experience and really looking at even pre-boarding. And then it brings you through to getting acquainted and ramping up as quickly as possible when you're new to role, but then focusing in the center there around learning in role. And so a key piece of accelerating your performance is learning every day. And then shifting to really be planful about what comes next for us, and then being able to swiftly be able to move into what that next position is. So one of the big pieces of Cisco's brand is that we are one company, many careers, and this connected experience allows us to really live up to that promise. So if we just take a quick look at the back end of the tech stack here that powers this up, what we look at is at the top layer, this unified experience. So this hub experience that allows you to own your own career profile. You come in with experiences and expertise and skills, and you're able to manage that in your own kind of growth or career profile. And then that pulls through into being very intentional on your career navigation. What comes next for me based off of what skills I have, what skills I need, and I'm interested in, but also what the company needs from me. And then being able to dive into those learning experiences in a very experiential way, and then having your AI companion that you can tap on at point of need whenever you need it. That's all a personalized, contextualized experience that at the bottom allows us to really fulfill a full spectrum of learning experiences, from those that are company prescribed from us, but also from those as an employee are subscribed because they are of personal interest to you. And at the base of all of this is strategic and predictive insights and analytics, and also the ability to automate a lot of the administrative tasks that really kind of take our time and attention away, being able to do the more meaningful type of learning work that we have ahead of us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marci. So Marci and the Cisco's team strategy is to find, win, and keep the best talent, powered by rich analytics with amazing experiences that are engaging and consumer grade, but at the same time drives talent administrative productivity. That is what we strive to offer through Cornerstone Galaxy. Our Learn solutions that is end-to-end, that is experiential, learning in the flow of work, meeting employees where they are in that journey, not just dusting off a binder and going into Learn. Elevate, where the goals of the individuals are married to the outcomes of the organization, exactly like what Marci mentioned. connected through this common language called skills. And transform, whereby you plug the visibility gap on the talent, the skills that you need, the skills that you have, and the skills the employees want to develop, and triangulating this to create that magic between the employer, the employee, and the community in which they are operating. All of this powered by skills, richness of data, and AI at the core, but also extensible. Extensible meaning that if you walk around the hundreds of people that are here, they're all part of the same ecosystem. And how can we share the road with the broader ecosystem? So taking Marci's strategy here, we've mapped it to what does it mean in that talent lifecycle. First, think about your hire to retire journey. In the hiring portion and pre-onboarding and onboarding, how do we then create that engaging, exciting, adaptive experiences for the employees? So if you look at it the first talent lifecycle of Cisco strategy is the pre-board and onboard. How do you bring them on board? How do you give them a single pane of glass to come in and be productive as quickly as possible, collaborative as quickly as possible? How can you have the equivalency of a new onboarding capability, that single point click that takes you, first helps you set up your profile, and from there on, you already not only have the right feeds that you need, your onboarding resources, your processes, your mentors, your buddies, etc. You can also join communities, cohorts, whether it is a channel that is specific for understanding the San Jose campus, or whether it is understanding how different CRGs, the ERGs, the resource groups within the organization, or whether it is subscribing to any specific skill development capability as a new person coming on board. So that is one big portion of that. The second big portion of that is also the thing that may sound boring, but is absolutely required, right? That is your required training and coming back and fulfilling and paying your dues with respect to what needs to be done. So that is the first portion. Then you go on to how do you get that deep, engaging, personalized learning opportunity within your role. That starts off with actually filling your profile. What is the profile? What are my skills? This is auto-fed thanks to AI and generative AI. With Skyhub at Cornerstone, we are in a position to auto-feed all of the skills profile and understand that the skills that you have, the skills that you need, based on your job history. This solves a fundamental problem that I hear from CHROs quite often. We know more about a person the day that they join than a year into the job. So how do we then create that lineage, that tracking of a person, understand that the skills, their relative proficiency for those skills for these different areas, and then how do we translate them into learning and growth and developmental opportunities? Learning in the flow of work. How do we then make that learning particularly more experiential? How do we get leaderboards and gamification? How do we create check-ins on what someone has learned and how do they get back to their manager? And how do we create multimodality in this learning? Because as I mentioned, the form factor of how employees use their tool is progressively becoming very difficult. And having experiential learning means having an ability to role play, having an ability to practice your pitch, having an ability to run a de-escalation for a customer service opportunity, etc. So this VR, AR-centric learning, whether it is tap and touch, point and click, stare and gaze, all of those modalities should be covered. And getting that right feedback at the right time from an actual coach or a virtual coach becomes a huge part of that experiential learning in the flow of work, wherever you are, that meets the journey. And then having that tie-in, that check-in back to your manager to say, here are the skills that I need to develop, that's what I think I'm working on, and here are the skills that you need to develop. So now we have connected learning to performance, to mobility, to talent onboarding, all seamlessly in a single pane of glass. And then how do you prepare for your next role? Your career opportunities are foundational to your skills. So that is Cisco's strategy, is to make sure that no person left behind and every person, what is it? It's not a job, it's a career? What is the phrase?
One company, many careers.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, right? This is exactly what you want. I want to go from a designer to a product manager, from a networking engineer to an SDN, from a learning leader to a CHRO. You need that Google Maps to help you navigate that in a most objective way, in a way that actually drives the objectivity, it is skill-centric, helps you control I grew up in GE. Jack Welch's favorite statement, or control your destiny or someone else will. And how do you get that career mapping then tied back to both actual learning and experiential learning? By actual learning, this is based on that skill and your career desire, how do you serve up the right learning objects, but also the right projects, gigs, mentors, so that you're not just learning, you're learning by doing. What is it? Show me, I will forget. Tell me, I will forget. Show me that I will remember. Teach me, I will learn. That is exactly the ethos behind how do you do your career planning with respect to this. And then from there, you connect to a mentor, exactly the same skills, who can also have the same level of empathy. And then from there, you go into applying and to your next job. So again, this is a career journey, not just a job. All the way from having that conversation with your manager through the right check-in tools, through to assessment of your skills, the previous talk that we just heard about, all the way through clicking and applying for internal positions for career mobility, right? Gone are the days when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, go this. Not gone, but it's more democratized. It is not that club anymore. So every person has an opportunity to unleash their true potential within their employer of choice. Thus, when individuals thrive, organizations succeed. And you have a crystal clear understanding of the skills gap that you're solving for the organization, while also providing the right career path, coaching, and mentoring to every single individual. This is a phenomenal strategy, and one of the best thought leaders that I've worked with, and I have the pleasure of being, helping them get to their dream destiny. So this is how we are marrying Cisco's strategy to Cornerstone's solution. Any questions? We have 40 seconds left.
It's great to hear the journey that you've gone on. Are there any things that work particularly well that you can share with the group?
It's interesting. We had this BCG readout this morning. They talked about the most successful transformation projects or initiatives really look at the people and processes and organizational systems. It's sort of like what's underneath the iceberg. That's the part that I think is working the best for us right now, is we're rethinking how we actually work as an organization so that we can be much more agile and more proactive. So learning now has a seat at the table with workforce planning and talent acquisition as we study the data insights on a quarter-by-quarter basis and can go to our ELT and discuss what our strategies and solutions are collectively across the board. So we show up with one workforce plan instead of separate and disparate ones, and we start to draw the connections so that the business leaders can see how we can really move things forward at a much quicker pace and at scale across the company. So I think us really looking at that portion of it has been quite successful, and as we look at kind of ramping up for our next fiscal year, we're going to look at our people practices and really start to look at how do we embed and incentivize the right mindset shifts that we need to see from a culture perspective. And with all of that kind of wrapped around all of this strategy, we actually defined new company values. We call them guiding principles that really kind of power up what these mindsets mean for us to lead, work, and learn differently in the future. And we've gotten a lot of our ELT involved in creating and crafting those, so they are our spokespeople. And so our CEO is talking about our guiding principles and talking about learning every day and lifelong learning and that learning fearless culture. And so I think that having that kind of top-down advocacy and sponsorship has also been hugely beneficial for us as we've kind of stepped into this transformation.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.